Made it to Elliott. Oh, the first call! Julian Carranza! A spectacular finish! Philadelphia Devils its lead! Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and the Philadelphia Union have finally lost for the first time in 2025 as they fell to Nashville SC by a score of 3-1 with goals scored by, I almost said Daniel Suarez, Daniel Sturridge, by Sam Sturridge. And you had Jovan Lukić scoring for the Philadelphia Union, and you had Kasim and Mukhtar also scoring for Nashville. And, don't want to hold Jose up too long tonight as he's on the way back to – actually, no, he's on the way now to San Francisco. I almost said he's on the way back to Philadelphia. He's on the way to San Francisco, but he's in probably my favorite city I've ever been to, and that is Denver, Colorado. Jose, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Sorry if it's a noisy Denver International. Yeah, so my way to San Francisco for 2 days and then heading out to Seattle for, through Sunday. So I will be at the Houston versus Seattle game this weekend on assignment for MLS, as well as some other stuff that I think I'll be doing. So pretty excited. Beautiful little city, very walkable, very, very nice to navigate. So
Denver is such a great city. I love my one time that I was in there with Jillian and Kyle Olney, and heading back out the first week of July just because the Union don't have any games that week. So it's like, okay, let's go ahead and take a little bit of a mini break before we get into the nitty-gritty part of the 2025 season. And hopefully the Union is still in US Open Cup at that point too. But regardless, thank you so much, Jose, for joining me, everybody in the chat. We're probably going to keep this around 45 minutes, I would say. So we'll read the comments as they come in, but we may not get to every single comment tonight. So not too many news topics to talk about tonight, but regardless, we do have some news. So let's get straight into the news. All right, so we'll start off with this. Jose, former Philadelphia Union 2 head coach Marlon LeBlanc to lead USYNT U18s during a training camp in Marbella, Spain from March 17th through the 25th. Neil Pierre just got included into that squad today from the Philadelphia Union. But yeah, nice to see Marlon get back into the soccer world. And I don't think Marlon was ever going to take too long of a break. And fans, I know, disappointed that he wasn't the next Philadelphia Union 2 head coach that went to Ryan Richter, as we all know. Union 2 are currently playing right now against New York Red Bulls 2. I believe that game's in a penalty shootout after Kevin Sullivan scored, and then Red Bulls tied it up. But yeah, to see Marlon back involved into the soccer world. And again, I want to make it clear that this isn't a permanent role for Marlon. And the press release, it was pretty clear about that. It just said that Marlon's going to be filling in as the coach for this training camp in Spain. And we'll see the U.S. take on both Norway and Morocco. They take on Morocco on March 22nd and Norway on March 25th. So good competition there for the U18s. But Marlon LeBlanc back involved in soccer. Pretty big news there, Jose.
Yeah, this was one that I had to bottle in for a little bit. I remember hearing about it maybe 2 weeks ahead of the announcement, maybe a little bit longer. I can't recall exactly off the top of my head, but nonetheless, it's exciting, right? I mean, Marlon, if I recall, had just finished his coaching licenses, maybe a few months ago, and meaning the licenses that would allow him to take on this group and carry out the responsibilities, or maybe just above it all. So, yeah, happy for him. I know he had been doing some side coaching with Kevin and Quinn Sullivan and the other twins, the Sullivan Army. He was helping coach on the side with the dad. So Marlon, will do this. I think he'll do well. In the way that it was explained to me, and whether this is the right term, I'm not sure. It's very much a date between him and the Federation for this one, right? In terms of trying things out and seeing how it goes, how he operates, etc. Not an official appointment by any means, but I hope that there's a way to watch these games.
Yeah, big news coming out there, and don't want to spend too long on it, but yeah, nice to see Marlon back involved in soccer. And then the other bit of news that I wanted to just mention real quick, you guys had all seen this: Wagner and Jovan Lukić named to the Team of the Matchday for Matchday 3 for the performance against New England. That made 3 consecutive weeks that the Union had representation in Team of the Matchday, but with the loss to Nashville, that 3-week span of getting a player included had come to an end after the loss to Nashville. But yeah, regardless, I mean, both players have been playing well this season. Lukić obviously gets the goal, and I guess we can start there, right, Jose? Where, yeah, I mean, not many positives to take out of this game. And there was a comment that I wanted to pull up here. It said, "I hope the people that went on about it's too early to feel up during the winning streak have the same energy that it's too early to go down on the team after a loss." And yeah, I don't think too many people are ready to jump off the ship yet. But the one thing I would say is that it's never good when a team loses, but I would say this is good that the Union, finally got a loss out of the way after surpassing all expectations starting the season 3-0. And who would have projected that? I mean, nobody at MLS thought that they would have when they did their season previews. And I think the average vote came in at 12th place for the Union. And yeah, I mean, they start the season 3-0, and this is a team that looked great offensively. And last afternoon, feels so weird saying afternoon because it was a 2 p.m. kickoff for 2:25. But yeah, this is a team that was struggling to really create any meaningful chances against Nashville. But I don't think people are going to jump off board yet. Yeah, I told you guys, I told you so that this team was frauds and everything. I think this is a good test for this team to show, okay, look, they finally hit their first bump in the road, and they played a really good Nashville team that just had their number, knew exactly how they were going to play. Nashville goes in, gets their very first win in Subaru Park, and BJ Callahan just had the blueprint on the Union. And so I'll be curious to see how they respond. We'll talk about international call-ups here in a bit, but yeah, there's a big opportunity for them to come back out this upcoming week against St. Louis and really show that, look, we can get back to winning ways after starting the season 3-0.
Yeah, I finally got to rewatch the game last night. As you know, Todd, but I don't know if the rest of the people who listen and watch know, I had to stop the stream come the 67th minute, maybe closer to the 70th, because it was time for me to board. I was fortunate that my flight was delayed and allowed me to watch as much as it did, to the point that when I finally landed, I asked Todd, wait, there was a red card and there was a missed penalty, and then Bruno missed the bounce back off of it. So, yeah, just a weird game, and nothing against BJ Callahan, but I never imagined that BJ Callahan would do a better job of out-coaching Bradley Connell than Pat Noonan when Cincinnati came into town. That was a bit of a shocker for me, but happy for Nashville. I'm fortunate that this blip, this stutter along the way happened at home. I think you'd be less mad if this was at Geodis Park, right? I would think. But nonetheless, it was just, I don't want to blame the conditions because that's lame and honestly tiresome too. But a very windy day, not sure, and I think it was you, Todd, who mentioned today, but like, what were they thinking with the high line, with the wind going, whipping as hard as it was, allowing the ball to float and allowing the ball to be misguided depending on how it was going left or right. So I think it's one to forget, except for Jovan's goal. My goodness, what a belter that was. I did not expect that whatsoever, and I don't even know what the keeper was complaining about. Did he just get hit by somebody in the scramble there?
Yeah, he got hit by his own defender.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry. I see that someone's saying that there's an audio problem. I'm so sorry. I'm in an airport Wi-Fi, so I apologize if it's not great.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't want to say it's cutting in and out, but it's a little bit like staticky. I don't know why. It's a little bit weird. Like, you were fine last time when you did this in the airport. Now, it's got to be those aliens. I don't know if you know the stories about how there's like secret aliens underneath the Denver airport. So yeah, the aliens might be messing with your with your audio there, Jose. But yeah, I mean, Jovan's goal was fantastic there, and then you had Joe Willis just get knocked out by his own defender. You had Willis go up there and try to punch the ball away, and then he completely misses the ball. And we'll see if we get Jose back in here as he's dealing with the audio problems. Sorry about that, everybody. But yeah, I mean, a great strike by Jovan, and yeah, I know that the goalkeeper wasn't in the net because Willis was on the ground. But regardless, to hit that ball around all the defenders that were inside the box. I mean, it was a wonderful hit there by Jovan Lukić. But yeah, I think not many positives to take away from this game. I mean, a lot more negatives than positives. And trust me, we will get to the negative moments here as Jose gets back in here. Hopefully, the audio is a little bit better. Hopefully, we shall see. But yeah, I mean, other than Jovan's goal, I mean, the Union really didn't have many bright moments in the attack, and I'll go into that real quick. You talked about the first loss being at Subaru Park this season, Jose, and one thing I wanted to ask you, and I'll pose this question to people in the chat, but a Union first loss, obviously of the season, comes at Subaru Park. We all know how they did last year, 4-8-5, 8 losses at Subaru Park, which was the most in franchise history during MLS play. You go back to 2021, the Union had 3 losses at home in MLS. 0 losses in 2022, 1 loss in 2023. And so during those 3 seasons, only 4 losses. Last season, you had 8 losses. And 2 games in at Subaru Park, the Union finally pick up a loss. And is that concerning to you at all, Jose? Seeing how poorly the Union played at Subaru Park last year. And I mean, they played Cincinnati off the map a few weeks ago. I know you can argue, well, yeah, it's because Cincinnati had a CONCACAF Champions Cup game coming up on Tuesday. And yeah, that may be a valid excuse or whatever you want to call it. But I mean, regardless, the Union showed up and played great. And now you have against Nashville, and they barely created any chances. And yeah, 8 losses last year, and you're already 2 games in at Subaru Park, and you've picked up a loss.
Yeah, and I hope maybe it's also.
A lot better.
What's that?
You're good. A lot better.
Okay, that's good. I just have to refresh the page and just reset my microphone. So yeah, no, I don't find it concerning whatsoever. It was bound to happen. There was no way that the Bradley Cornell era would start as well as it did and also end as well as it did. Right? There was just absolutely no chance. Would it have been nice for it to this little stutter have happened at Geodis or somewhere else? Absolutely, of course. But nonetheless, maybe this is one that they get out of their system, or maybe this is one that shows to Cornell that the competition within the team is more fierce than intended, right? Like Neil Pierre, Indy Vasilev, all of these guys who are just competing so hard. Maybe this was what's kind of shake out the team a little bit better. They come off of actually, I was going to say they come off of the international break looking different, but they play right through the break, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more. But no, not at all concerned. It is what it is, and listen, it could have been far worse considering the one time it hit the post and some other chances that Nashville had.
Mark says right here, he says, going to the game yesterday, I had no expectations of them starting 4-0. Would have been nice, but very unlikely. Draw would have been nice. Yeah, I agree. A draw would have been nice. He says, I really like the coach, meaning Bradley Cornell. I think he will have them focused to bounce back. And yeah, I mean, it's a big game coming up on Saturday against St. Louis. We all know the connections. Bradley Cornell being the former manager, the first manager in St. Louis SC soccer club history. You also have Indy Vasilev, who was traded at the end of February to Philadelphia Union. And so, yeah, I mean, a lot of connections between these two teams for the very first matchup. But just going back and focusing on this game, the Union just lacked any real clear-cut chances offensively after scoring multiple goals every single game. The Union go into the break down for the very first time, 2-1. First time this season that they've conceded 2 goals in the first half. And to their credit, they concede pretty early in this game in the 15th minute to Sam Suric. And then you have Jovan scoring in the 33rd minute. Then you give up a goal in the 44th minute. And conceding that late into the first half is definitely a momentum killer. But yeah, looking at the Union just offensively, 11 shots compared to Nashville's 12. The Union had 5 shots on target, but only 1 goal to show for it. And we'll get to the controversy with the referee a little bit later on because, that was a big talking point for people on social media. But my argument would be, look, Daniel Gazdag had a big chance before the potential penalty shot with Quinn Sullivan in the 58th minute. You had Quinn crossing the ball into Mikael Uhre. He flicks on one to Daniel Gazdag. Gazdag's wide open at the back post. Nobody's on him. And instead of trying to hit that with power, he tries to get too cute with the ball and try to beat Joe Willis at his far post. And it's an easy kick save for Willis. But that, for me, is the turning point in this game. If the Union convert that chance, it's 2-2, and who knows if they would have got a penalty shout? Who knows if Nashville would have had a penalty with Hani Mukhtar? So if Gazdag converts that chance, then we're not even having this conversation. And if you want to take it a step further, look at the first half. They really struggled to complete passes playing out of the back, and maybe the wind played a factor into that, but you got to convert your chances. And having Daniel Gazdag that wide open inside the 6-yard box, it came back and haunted them.
Yeah, him not finishing that ball and making a mess of it, it was just such a deflating moment. And to your point of, and again, I hate to go back to the environment, or I should say the conditions of the night. When you play the Cornell style where you're, trying to advance the ball as fast as possible, press, get them to turn it over, and then continue to go at them, when that ball starts to just float in the air, or you can't predict if you're a Ty Baribo or a Mikael Uhre and you can't predict where that ball's going because of the wind whipping back and forth, it makes it unbelievably difficult to be successful with it. Same with, Kai Wagner and Frankie Westfield as well. When you advance as wing backs up and you're trying to cross the ball, there's no predictability behind it. And sometimes that's good for a striker, but sometimes that can lead to games like what Ty had yesterday, which I am sure he would love to forget about.
Yeah, and that's just it too, right? Neither Ty Baribo or Mikael Uhre looked great. Mikael probably should have had an assist to Daniel Gazdag, but regardless, Gazdag can't finish it. And Ty Baribo, I mean, I was talking to Skylar Hoffner in the press box, and I mean, Ty looked pretty invisible out there. I mean, could barely get on the ball. I don't even think he had a shot at all. I'm looking at it right here. One total shot. I don't even remember this. It was a header that got blocked. That tells you right there just how poor of a game that he had, that I can't even recall that moment in the first half in the 22nd minute, it says here, but 22 touches, only 2 in the opposition's box. I mean, yeah, a quiet game for Ty Baribo. And the stories had been all about Baribo just leading MLS with 6 goals coming into this game. And he was completely taken out. And there was a comment here by Pat Bernard. Hey, Pat, thank you for joining us. Said, what's up, gentlemen? Nashville did the homework on the Union, plus Nashville beating Portland 2-0 last week was a momentum booster. Absolutely, it was a booster. But I think it was Pat asking players after the game and also asking Bradley Cornell, do you feel like, teams have the blueprint out on you? And Andre was like, yeah, everybody knows how everybody plays. And I don't think that it was any secret how the Union were playing under Bradley Cornell, that they were doing anything special. I mean, it's very similar to what the New York Red Bulls play, what St. Louis City did. But my argument would be the Union have better players than both teams had. And they're a team that always wants to play out of the back and then usually get that ball out wide right to Frankie Westfield starting the attack. Or, they're playing a long ball out from Macania or Jakob Glesnes. And the Union really couldn't do that too much yesterday because of the wind being a factor. And so trying to push the ball down the right side of the field, starting Frankie Westfield, yeah, Nashville were just ready for that every single time the Union tried to play it. And they really didn't seem to have a plan B or a plan C. And Jakob Glesnes talked after the game saying, yeah, Bradley had told us all week, we want to stretch Nashville. They want to make it compact in the middle, which they did. And the Union struggled with that compactness that Nashville brought to this game. But another thing that I noticed was the physicality. Nashville was way more physical than the Union in this game. I believe it was like 20 fouls Nashville had compared to the Union's 11. And I can't remember the last time, Jose, that a team was more physical than the Union. And yeah, maybe it's easy to say matches last season, but off the top of my head, I can't remember a time where the Union were just getting pushed off the ball so easily and really showing no fight. And I think maybe that caught the Union off guard a little bit, where they had their way against Orlando City, they had their way against Cincinnati, and they had their way against New England with that physicality. And then Nashville comes in here, and it seems like the back line couldn't do anything in the first half against Serge. Walker Zimmerman and the rest of the Nashville defense and did well, keeping Mikal Ur, Daniel Gazak, and Ty Baribo in check. And so, yeah, just trying to think about it off the top of my head, I can't remember a moment where the Union were just outplayed physically.
I can with certainty say probably Pachuca last year at Pachuca, which was obviously a disaster. This is 6-0 game. But for some reason in my head, I'm going back to Atlanta at Atlanta, because that was a pretty choppy game. And obviously the controversy of the throw-in with Nate Harriel. I don't know if you recall that with his foot. Those are the only two games I can think of, but I could be completely wrong about the Atlanta one. And you're not wrong. I mean, they made it so compact in the middle, and there were moments and flashes too. And I know we've been giving him so many flowers. Me specifically, I'm leading the parade, it feels like, with Jovan Lukić. But the confidence that he had throughout that game to open up and turn the ball and flip, just flip the script a little bit in terms of deceiving Hani of all people and anybody else who was defending him was pretty impressive. But once he would turn around and try to find an outlet, the outlet was just not there, or maybe the ball that Jovan provided was just not quite there on point. The one example I can think of is where he, I don't even know if it was a Cruyff, I don't know what you call it. I think it was something like a stop and go type of thing, like in basketball when you're driving to the net. In the middle early in the game, and then he found Frankie, who then took a couple of touches and almost found Tide, which led to a corner, not the corner, but a corner. But beyond that, it felt like everything was just clogged up. So is the playbook out? I don't know that I believe it. It doesn't feel like it is in a way like it was last year with Jim Curtin. I mean, how tiring it was, Todd, to listen to press conferences from opposing coaches to say it was the same two sentences over and over again. And so far with teams against Bradley, they talk about anything but the playbook. So we'll see. Quick turnaround, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I asked Bradley Cornell after the game, about the physicality. Did he feel like the Union were unable to match the physicality that Nashville brought to the game? And this is what he had to say.
Right, so what we pride ourselves on, and yeah, I think they did a good job of breaking down the momentum. Like I said, our boys have invested so much over the last couple of weeks, and it's just unfortunate that we lose at home, and we disappoint the crowd, that disappoint the fans. You can hear a pin drop in the locker room, because they know the players are really upset about the proceedings today, and rightly so. We've created a high bar, we've set a high standard, and not every day is going to go our way. And today was one of those days.
So actually, I have no idea what happened there in the clip. For people that are watching it live, it cut some of that off. So people that are listening to this on the podcast feed, you guys will have the right audio clip there. But yeah, Bradley Cornell had basically said that it was basically a scrimmage between the two teams. They both play a similar way, and Nashville just came out and were more physical than the Union. And yeah, it's like I said, I can't remember a time where the Union were more physical than out physical than they were against Nashville Saturday afternoon. But yeah, regardless, I think we had said it at the beginning, Jose. I think it's going to be a good test here Saturday against St. Louis, where a lot of players are going to be missing from international duty, and we'll see how the Union respond. But before we get to the referees, I mean, a lot of defensive mistakes in this game. Jakob Glesnes was at the forefront for all three goals conceded. And I'm going to try something and see if you guys can see this. But right here, I mean, this is the first goal that Nashville had scored, and I don't know if you guys can see my mouse on the screen. Can you see my mouse, Jose? No? Yes? No? Okay, that's fine. Well, you guys can see in the midfield there, I have Danley on the right and Jovan to the left, and then you have the Union's back line there, and Hani Mukhtar is right there in the center circle, and nobody picks Hani Mukhtar up on this play. It's Jakob Glesnes coming out of position, leaving Search, and that leaves Frankie Westfield to deal with Search. And I had just released my goals breakdown video, so you guys can see me break down this play. But yeah, this is pretty telling early on in the game, just how between the midfield and the defense, the communication was off all game. And you didn't have Danley tracking Mukhtar on this play, because this play started with Hani in his own half, just resetting the play, and then he just drifts into that center circle, and nobody picks him up. It's Glesnes leaving his position. And then you go to and the second goal that Nashville scores, where you have Jakob Glesnes, getting beat by Qasim. And then you have Glesnes taking out Hani Mukhtar that led to the penalty kick. But yeah, there was no reason for Jakob Glesnes on the very first goal to move up and challenge Hani Mukhtar. He should have just held in position because, yeah, sure, Hani is going to receive that ball and then he's going to have to turn. And by the time he does that, Danley or Jovan's going to get in position and be able to slow him down. And you don't have to worry about, Sam Search getting in behind your back line because you're defending in 1v1. But I think this play right here was pretty telling how the game was going to go. And it was a challenge that Jakob Glesnes didn't have to make at all.
Yeah, I think I texted you immediately. You were at the game. I was at the Philadelphia airport, and as soon as I saw this happen, I'm thinking to myself, "Oh no!" And of course, one or two mistakes always lead it to goals typically, because if it happened in bunches, it typically means that it's going to lead to a goal. And I'm sorry if it's getting red. We have I think middle school troop with Chick-fil-A going to their flight. Yeah, this goal was pretty telling of how the night was going to go. And I hate to be this way, but it really felt like a continuation of Glesnes' form from last year, not just on this specific sequence, but I think it was the second goal, Todd. Yeah, it had to be the second goal where he got turned around while the ball was up in the air, right? I can't recall. Maybe it was this one, but it was just a mess from him. And I'm sure the video team will want to clean that up pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was the ball in the air. It was just an easy ball over the top by Daniel Lovitz. And I have no clue what Jakob Glesnes was doing there on that play. I mean, Ahmed Qasim was always going to beat Jakob Glesnes. Glesnes, we know, is not the fastest player. And yeah, that whole play was a mess there where Frankie Westfield, there's nothing he could do. He couldn't close down Lovitz. I said in my goals breakdown video that Daniel Gazak probably should have been farther out wide to close that down. And because he wasn't, now Frankie has to go and push the ball. And because of that, it slides Jakob Glesnes over. And the position that Glesnes was in, he was at the start of the play in the right position. Then Lovitz plays the ball where Glesnes was originally, and then it's off to the races, and Glesnes was never going to win that foot race. But yeah, I mean, defensive mistakes. People are saying, Frank B says Glesnes' play is concerning. Seems like more of what he was doing last year, lacking awareness. And yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of moments this season where it's been, okay, what are you doing, Glesnes? But nothing too concerning to where it was at the level it was at last season. Yeah, obviously, Glesnes being at the forefront for all three goals is going to get all the headlines. But at the end of the day, I give Jakob Glesnes credit because he said, look, yeah, all three goals were on me. And I don't know, Jose, if you got a chance yet to listen to all the Andre Blake, Jovan Lukić, and Jakob Glesnes, so the three players that talked in the locker rooms after the game. Some interesting stuff by all three players. But yeah, this was pretty telling right here by Jakob Glesnes, just taking responsible for all three goals.
Yeah, it was tough. Like I said earlier as well, it wasn't good enough for me today. I would say I was involved in all three of the goals. Yeah, of course, that's not fun, but that's reality here now.
Yeah, and so I mean, credit to him for taking the responsibility for being involved in all three goals, probably being at fault for all 3 goals. But like you said, before he had mentioned that comment, he had said, the good thing is, we turn the page and go into the next game. So what had happened, and it's unfortunate. But at the end of the day, it's leadership you're seeing there from Glesnes saying, yeah, I wasn't good enough.
Yeah, it's great to hear this. And no, I haven't gotten a chance to listen to the comments. I've been ping-ponging around Denver all day, and now finally getting to stand or sit at the airport. It's good. I'm glad. And honestly, it's typical of him. I don't think that there's been a time where he's shied away, at least in the time that I've been covering the team, or you and I have been covering the team together, that he has sort of pushed the blame on anybody else. So I'm glad that he's eager to move on, and I'm sure the rest of the team's eager to move on to what's going to be a fairly decimated Union squad on Saturday.
Yeah, that is going to be a crazy squad. Let's go into that, I guess, real quick then. We'll go and talk about an injury update to Glavinovich, and I feel like every single episode, Jose, it's always we're giving updates either on Nathan Harrier or Jan. And again, we got another injury update from Bradley Cornell after the game. I'll play that in a bit. But looking at all the players that are living on international duty for the Union, you have Danley going, Daniel Gazla going, Andre Blake going, Ty Baribo, Jesus Bueno, Frankie Westfield, Neil Pierre. And I think regardless if it wasn't an international break, I think Bradley Cornell would have changed up this lineup. Yeah, you ride the hot hand, 3 wins start the season. You go with the same group again. It didn't work out against Nashville. I think regardless if Ty Baribo was going to Israel or not, Damiani would probably be in the lineup against St. Louis. I would say it's only a matter of time before we start seeing him week in, week out. And now he'll definitely get his chance, I would imagine, this weekend with Mikael Uhre. And let's see if he can get a goal. But yeah, a lot of key players there for the Union. And I think the most surprising is seeing Jesus Bueno getting caught up with Venezuela.
Yeah, when I saw Jesus Bueno's name on the list of players called up, I was kind of thinking, so really? And that's even a very thick list per se. It's like 30-some players. At first, I thought it was maybe like a preliminary list, but reality is that it was the real list, though. Jose Martinez did come out with an injury at halftime against Palmeiras this past yesterday, 2 days ago, yesterday. So, again, another opportunity for Jesus to do something with the national team. It seems like every time that he has gotten that chance, something happens either to his ankle or something else. So, yeah, this is going to be reminiscent of the Portland game last year, right? Of just slapping together a squad. And to me, it's comical. And I don't know how to maybe say it the best way, but, fans that complain about these international players leaving for international duty with their nations, to me, is hilarious, because that just means that the Union are doing a good job of finding great players that are good enough to represent their nation. It comes at a cost, and this is it, right? So I'm hopeful that the leadership of Bedoya, the experience and the weight on the shoulders of a Bruno Damiani, as well as a Jan Glavinovich, because he's also on loan and he needs to start producing to justify the loan. Hopefully that pushes these guys forward, though I'm intrigued to see some of these players that have been not necessarily cast away, but sort of in no man's land, right? Like Semla, I'm sure he's going to be in the roster, right? Because they need a second keeper. But
and he was on the roster this weekend.
And he was on the roster this weekend. So, what does that mean for him? What does that mean for Raffanello, right? Does he show up on the roster next weekend? Someone had suggested to me, what if he starts? It's like, there's no way he starts, right? Like, I can't see that. But if he does, fair play to him. So, and the Union 2 guys that just finished the game just now, and I guess won on the penalty kick rule that they do after, tying 1-1, where do you plug in a CJ Olney? Where do you plug in a David Vasquez if you're going to do anything with them at all? It'll be really, really interesting, though I need to look up where and when does Union 2 play next, because that may be telling of exactly who they might send and who they may not send. But that's besides the point. All that to say, are they?
The Union play in Huntsville March 28th. So,
gotcha.
this upcoming week.
Yeah, so everybody's fair play, and I think it was pretty telling that Nate Harriel did that feature today for Union 2, which I actually had expected maybe 50, 60 minutes, but with Frankie getting called up, I'm sure that completely wiped that off. Though I get a little bit of fear throwing him into the deep end that he's been all too used to, right? Because he's an Olympian. So what it looks like this coming weekend against a pretty good St. Louis side.
Yeah, and I didn't even see the lineup today for Union 2, so I'm looking at it right here. David Vasquez did start. So I was going to say, when I was at practice on Saturday, I don't know if David's been practicing with the first team the whole season, but yeah, he was in practice on Saturday with the first team. And so, yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. I thought, okay, does this mean that David's potentially close to making an appearance with the first team since they have him out there training? But at the same time, too, maybe it's just for the numbers aspect and everything. I don't know. And it's definitely not worth a question and asking Bradley Cornell, why is David training with you guys? If somebody else wants to ask that, so be it. But yeah, I'm not wasting a question on that. But that leads me to Jan Glavinovich. Makanya picks up a red card in this game for throwing the ball at Jacob Schafferberg's face. Deserved red card, I may add, for Makanya. And Glavinovich was not on the bench once again for the Union. And this is what Bradley Cornell said in terms of how close he was.
Been in the matchday squad, but we decided to get him more extensive, like a training session under the belt this morning to prepare him for next week, because we know we have a couple of departures, and now we're forced to to play a hand. We'll see how that goes and how many minutes Young can play next week. But yeah, there's still a couple of days before we have to make those decisions.
Yeah, I mean, for the Union's sake, they better hope that Jan's able to play against St. Louis, because I'd imagine if he can't, then it's Jakob Glesnes and Nathan Harriel as your two center backs, and then Olivier Baze would come in as your right back. I mean, oh God, I don't think this fan base wants to see any more Nathan Harriel center back, even though he played good against Pachuca in the first leg at Subaru Park and kept Solomon Rondon in check. But yeah, Nate's better playing as a right back than he is a center back. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what he looks like fitness wise against St. Louis on Saturday or as the week goes on. But yeah, no Makanya we know against St. Louis City, no Neil Pierre, and if Jan's not able to go, then what happens? Nathan Harriel, I guess, is your next center back.
that we don't have to go too in depth on the red card for Makanya. That has to have completely changed the idea behind what the defensive lineup specifically looks like for the game against St. Louis. And once again, you cannot forget that Jan Glavinovich is here on loan, having to prove whether or not he is going to be a permanent transfer. Though he's certainly enjoying the cash, because whether he is leasing it or he outright bought it, he is driving himself a very, very nice Mercedes-Benz nowadays. So happy for him, but brother better start getting on the field. And if he's listening to this, Jan, I need to sit down with you in a cup of mate and just 45 minutes of just chit-chatting.
And Michael chimed in the same time you said it. He bought a nice Mercedes. Yeah. I mean, he's a TAM player, so he definitely has a salary to afford it. So we'll see once the MLS PA spring salary guides come out and see how much money Jan's making once those numbers are released. But yeah, I think as we get ready to close down this show, as Jose gets ready to board a flight here coming soon to head out to San Francisco and then Seattle, the referee decisions in this game, and I don't know how long Jose and I will spend talking on this, because you guys spent so long talking about this. The one thing I would say is, I don't know if people were like coming for me on social media saying that, yeah, I was complaining about calls and everything. Like, I don't think I did in any of my tweets. Like, yeah, I think that was a foul 100% by Jakob Glesnes on Hani Mukhtar. They both go up for a 50-50 challenge, which you see that all the time, but it was so late for Jakob Glesnes. How he gets out jumped by Hani Mukhtar. Glesnes is late with his challenge, and then he hits him in the head after Hani wins the header. I mean, a clumsy challenge there by Jakob Glesnes. no issues with me giving that as a penalty kick. The issue people have is, okay, why was Hani allowed to come back onto the field and take the penalty after he had just had a head-to-head challenge? And Jakob Glesnes had told us after the game, well, it's a new rule or something where if the designated penalty taker is involved in that, the designated penalty taker is allowed to come back on. I have to look up that rule, but we'll take Jakob Glesnes' word for that. But the first one, though, I don't know how it was not given as a penalty with Daniel Lovitz's challenge on Quinn Sullivan. I mean, there's been so many different fan videos out there now. I mean, not even just the Apple video. But Lukić doesn't get the ball at all. Completely takes out Quinn Sullivan. And it is mind-blowing to me how that wasn't a yellow card and a penalty kick. I mean, it's crazy. VAR says there's enough in this. Go have a look at the monitor. The referee takes at least 2 minutes looking at this and then comes out and says, no penalty. And you knew when he was taking that long, he was going to come out and say no penalty. But I had no clue how he determined it's no penalty when Lukić doesn't get the ball at all.
Yeah, to me, it was one of those, and they happen fairly often, but momentum tilting sort of moments, right? Like this is, say there is a penalty, and at that time it was it 2-1 or 1-1? 2-1. Imagine that penalty gets called. Imagine that penalty goes in. Why Quinn Sullivan's taking penalties? I don't know. Go ahead.
So when Quinn took that penalty, Gazdag was off the field, Deliber was off the field. I think I probably would have chosen Damiani to take that, or I'd said on AAT Sports with Mike, maybe give Chris Donovan that. He's the one who earned the penalty for the Union towards the end of the game. But I don't think that penalty that Quinn Sullivan should have earned, I don't think he would have taken it. I think Gazdag would have taken it because he was on the field. But continue.
Yeah, no, and that's just it, right? Like, and thank you for clarifying that. I totally could have seen and would have believed that maybe Damiani takes it, right? And nonetheless, the point of the whole issue is how VAR asked or said there's enough here for a review. Go take a look at it, and 2 minutes of capitulating on it, the decision still feels wrong in a way. And I'm the first one to tell you, Todd, and you know this about me. I'm the last to want to complain about referees. I find it so tiring and dumb. You should have one. If a referee is costing you a game, you certainly did not do enough to win the whole game. And so, to me, it's like, okay, well, it stinks. The one where I even question more, and this is completely against the indifference of what you're saying, is that the two heads colliding between Glesnes and Hani. I personally don't see how that's a foul, but I also don't have all the angles from where I was watching through the screen versus where you were in the press box versus where Steve Fuentes, shout out to him for sending me the video of the Lukić banger from the river end. All those different angles are so different, and the speed of it all, right? Where like I saw it on replay, but they obviously center referee saw it in real time, and maybe it looked in. We see a lot of these fouls where a play looks like a terrible foul, but in reality, like it looks worse because it was slowed down versus sped up, that type of thing. So I don't know. Was the referee awful? Probably, but
yeah,
they're gonna be there next week and the following week and the week after that. So it's very much just adjust and move on.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say is so many stoppages in this game, whether it be for throw-ins, corner kicks, just fouls in general. And I do think that the referee made this game about him, and it started when he didn't give the Union the penalty kick for Quinn Sullivan. But that's not what lost the Union the game, because like I had said prior, if Daniel Gazdag converts that chance from the Mikal Uwa flick one, then the game's tied 2-2. And who knows if that penalty kick situation potentially would have happened with Quinn Sullivan and Lukić. Who knows if the penalty situation between Hani Mukhtar and Jakob Glesnes would have happened. You just never know. And so for the Union to get themselves in this situation where now we're talking about the referees costing the Union the game, a lot of fans say that, yeah, this referee lost the Union the game. I don't believe that at all. The Union lost themselves this game. They weren't great defensively. They didn't convert their chances. I know they didn't create a lot of chances. But at the end of the day, the chances you do create, you got to put them in the back of the net. And at the end of the day, the Union didn't put those chances away. And then you come to the situation with Chris Donovan getting taken out by Lukić. And yeah, that was such a clumsy challenge once again by Daniel Lukić. But the penalty was so poor by Quinn Sullivan there. I mean, no power, doesn't pick his corner. I mean, really, really weak penalty there by Quinn Sullivan. And I had said it, I think I would have went with Bruno Damiani. Bruno Damiani gets the rebound, and that's saved by Joe Willis. I mean, that sums up this game exactly. Watching Quinn Sullivan get his penalty saved, and then Damiani kicking the ball straight at Joe Willis when he's on the ground. Sums up this game perfectly.
All I'll say is that I think, and fair play and shout to Quinn, who was very dismissive about my question of the pressure of being a U22 player. But fair play to him to try to take ownership and leadership and take that penalty kick, right? Whether he had to fend somebody off or he truly is the number 2 after Daniel, I'm not sure. Maybe that needs to be revisited, or this is a lesson learned, right, for a very young player. So fair play to him, and gosh, hope that it doesn't happen again, because that was hard to say atrocious, but that was a pretty bad attempt at it all.
Nothing says really curious if Pro releases the video from Sullivan foul via your review. Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious. I wouldn't hold my breath though, but yeah, it would definitely be curious if they do or don't. Lexi Boom Boom says, yeah, I think it was both of us, really 50-50 challenge. Michael says, we played poorly. I just wish the referee making such terrible calls and made that much worse to watch. Mike Thomas, hey Mike, says butterfly effect, 100%. And then you have obviously Makanya getting a red card near the end of the game, gets pushed out of bounds by Jakob Schaufelberg. Obviously, Makanya is not happy with that, and then decides to throw the ball at Schaufelberg's head. And you can't have that. And I know he's a young player and everything, and he'll learn from that. And that's what Andre Bleak said after the game. But yeah, you gotta do a better job controlling your emotions there. And unfortunately, that red card hurts the Union severely for St. Louis. But good, Jose.
Not that this is related at all, but Makanya was also the guy who, during the playoffs, suddenly wasn't starting the one single game, right? And it was like a coach's decision. Marlon told us. I can't recall. Yeah, because Rojas started over him. So, listen, I'm not saying that they're connected or having to do with one another, but just putting it out there. I don't know. So, I'm sure that he feels awful considering the circumstances that the team finds itself in with everybody departing. So, I don't know. What do you think? Two games, 3 games for that? It was obviously aggressive. Yeah, it was not a double yellow.
I mean, he'll miss St. Louis, and I think, maybe a potential 2 more, I think. So all in all, 3 games, I think that's justifiable. I mean, yeah, that's probably a good chunk of games, 3, but there's just no need to pick up the ball and throw it at somebody's face. I mean, you got to keep your emotions in check. But I do have to give Makanya his flowers, because a chance in the first half where it was Search running one to a long ball by Alex Muil. It was 1v1 against Makanya, and I was getting flashbacks to the MLS Next Pro Cup where Makanya gets a red card and he doesn't pull down Search. I'm like, please don't pull him down. Please don't pull him down. And yeah, to his credit, he doesn't pull down Search. It was well defended there by Makanya, but yeah, that play at the end of the game, pretty poor. But speaking of pretty poor, I hate to do this, but we got to. And it's Blunder of the Week. And the episode of this title, or of this podcast, I forget what I named it, non-penalties, penalties, red cards, and hot dog throwing or something. I think I named this episode. Yeah, it was pretty disappointing to see Union fans upset with the penalty decision given against them for the 50-50 challenge with Hani Mukhtar and Jakob Glesnes. But yeah, that's just really poor by the fans, throwing hot dogs and debris on the field. And somebody had made a comment here. I didn't even save it, but they said that's the end of Dollar Dog Night, probably. And you're probably right. I mean, just why are we throwing trash on the field? I get people are upset, and there's just no need to take your anger out and throw stuff on the field. So Union fans, you guys get Blunder of the Week this week.
yeah, not good.
Not good at all for letting your emotions get the best of you, and that probably does end Dollar Dog Night. But at the end of the day, and I know it was more than a couple fans. It was a significant amount of people throwing stuff on the field. I would argue and say, those people don't define a whole fan base, but at the end of the day, it's not a great look for the Union. They'll probably get fined by MLS. Dollar Dog Night's probably going to be ruined, and we'll see what Union fans are able to bring into the River End going forward. Because this game was also on Fox. Don't forget that. A national televised game, and the cameras definitely picked up stuff being thrown on the field. So not a great look overall.
Yeah, and even the Spanish commentators and Bruno Vine and I forget the last name of the Iguya, I think is the last name of the other guy. I don't know if it's Sebastian, but they were sort of saying, "Oh no, this is not good. This is gonna earn them some sort of penalty in the future or some sort of fine from MLS." And whether that's true or not, I don't know that we'll ever find out. Honestly, it might just be something that we learn about in like a few months, if at all. But I said enough about it online. I had to fend off some dumb people, and I usually don't even interact with most of the comments on the stuff I post, which is terrible in terms of engagement. But the mischaracterization was maybe earned this time, right? In terms of how shitty that whole thing was and how weak-minded that was, right? Like it really does not make any sense when you really think about it, because you get caught doing that, you're probably never allowed to set foot in the stadium again. Like, is that really worth it? I don't know, man. It is what it is, and the team will probably move on from Dollar Dog Night. A good thing gone. Did they feed you guys hot dogs on the media box?
No, they did not. I'm shocked.
Okay. Shocked. Yeah, well, they probably had to save them for the rest of the stadium, but yeah, for Joey.
Yeah, Joey Chestnut. Dude, I don't know if you saw this on social media, not to change topics, but he had put down, I think, like 7 hot dogs, a gigantic cheesesteak, and I forget what else, pizza. He was eating pizza too, all in 3 minutes. I'm like, how did this guy put all this food down in 3 minutes? And they were telling us in the press box that Joey Chestnut specifically asked for boiling hot water, I guess, to help break down the food fast or whatever. But yeah, that was so gross, just watching this guy completely destroy food in 3 minutes. So to take a negative situation and try to turn it into a positive to end this episode, I mean, and Mike says gross. Yeah, maybe it isn't a positive. It was yeah, it was.
I think I saw just from him striking the drum, whether it was him or somebody else, I think the drum's already busted. Someone tore it. I don't know who it was. Everybody that I've watched it, I mean, the drum strikers that we've watched this year have not been NFL players. So Joey Chestnut destroyed this thing. Good on him, I guess. But yeah, all in all, a very forgettable weekend at Subaru Park and for the Philadelphia Union.
Mark says they were ice cold, bro. She said the same thing. She said it's a 1 out of 10 hot dog. And I said to her, you know what they should have done? They should have went to Costco, got that $1.50 hot dog and soda deal. Best combo out there. That's what I did before the game. Can't go wrong there. Mike Thomas says positive, no more Joey Chestnut appearances. Yeah, probably not. So if you want to turn a negative into a positive, the Union fans probably got Joey Chestnut to never appear at Subaru Park going forward. But Jose, I appreciate you jumping on here pretty much last minute. I didn't even think about asking you because I'm like, yeah, he's going to be flying back. So you're in the Denver airport getting ready to head to San Francisco, then Seattle. So thank you, Jose, for hopping on. Where can people follow you on social media?
On the Twitter sphere at Jose R. Nuñez 91. If you're even remotely interested, feel free to take a look at the piece I wrote for MLS for the Austin and LAFC game. That was a fun one to watch, fun one to put together. And this coming weekend, I'll be able to watch the Union game out in Seattle because it's a 4:30 start, and then walk over to Lumen to watch the Houston the Houston game because Mark Kelkenberg and I are going to be out in Seattle gallivanting the streets of the Pacific Northwest as Mark goes to, I believe, 2 U.S. Open match games, and he'll have some reporting of his own. And then I am on assignment for the Houston game, which we must say congratulations to Jack McGlynn getting the late international call-up, replacing Johnny Cardoso with him. So kudos to him. I kept on refreshing whether or not he had filed for an international switch, but it seems like if he plays, I think he might be. I think that cap ties him for real. So we'll see if he shows up or not on the field. I'll have to do some more research on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Good plug there to end the show, Jose. And, while you were talking there, I was like, wow, I went this whole episode without drinking water. And I'm like, no wonder my throat's starting to get scratchy. So, yeah, that's a rookie mistake on my end. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcast of The Free Kick. Check out the goals breakdown video or the live podcast on YouTube, youtube.com/freekickpod, wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick, and check out the Substack where I do writing. The podcast is hosted on there, and the goals breakdown video, thefreekick.substack.com. And I'm excited to announce I have an interview coming out probably tomorrow on Tuesday at some time with Indiana Vassilev. And I will say, great guy, very, very lovely conversation I had with Indy, and I think he's going to become a fan favorite here very, very quickly in Philadelphia. So I'm excited for all you guys to read the interview I had there with Indy on Saturday. I was finally able to get out to a Philadelphia Union practice since they had a Sunday game, so took advantage of that and got to talk to Indiana Vassilev. So be sure to check that out when I release that tomorrow at some point. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is The Free Kick Podcast.